All right, so I have to warn you, this is going to be a pissed off video. I know that this has been a week of absolute triumph for Johnny Depp. I know it has been. And look, there's no way around the fact that this was a huge comeback and a huge triumph for him. And I don't care how many media harpies and pearl clutching scolds and all of the rest of you who just cannot stand. It must be like nails going down chalkboard for some of you in the media and some of you at home who hate Depp and who still support Amber Heard, and you've got the, like Johnny Depp said, you've got the caked on mashed potatoes around your computer. It must be just all you can stand to have to see him in one day of triumph after another. And I know that it is driving people in the media crazy. And that's why we're getting just a continuation of some of these ridiculous articles and the same questions in that press conference. I don't know how many times in that press conference that Johnny Depp and the others did for Jean Dubarry. I don't know how many times I heard the same version of a different version of the same fucking question. Like, seriously. It was like, oh, I see. It's just going to be from the moment that Johnny Depp arrives. It's just going to be basically, one iteration after another of, you don't really think you should be here, sir, do you? Come on, sir, level with us. You really just are a wife beater, right, sir? Or in a French accent, if you will, because there were some Frenchies there asking questions too. You don't really think that you should be here, should you, Mr. Depp? I'm not making fun of French people, by the way. I'm one of those who I've studied a little French. I have like decent reading ability in French, but like if I try to start speaking French, it's going to be really embarrassing. So I won't be in any French films anytime soon, I'm sure. But yeah, all of these pearl clutching ninnies with their just banal questions. Just like, I mean, how many more times do we have to hear the same questions? And Johnny Depp patiently answering them, trying. I get the feeling with Johnny Depp, I have to say, after watching his interviews and watching the press conference, I think this is someone who, as I've said before, is still very, very conflicted about sort of whether he needs to keep talking about this, and he's obviously still, and rightly so, very, I think, angry and still shell shocked about what he's been through, what he continues to go through. And so I think there's a part of him, and I can see it, he's sort of patiently answering these questions with his usual wit, right? And irony and whatever, patiently answering these questions, trying to sort of, you can see he's still trying to like make a connection to explain. On the other hand, though, he says, I don't feel like I should have to tap dance for you. I don't feel like I should have to explain. So you can see that there's this real conflict with Depp, and I'm very sympathetic toward it. Toward him in this way, in many ways. I can understand, though. On the one hand, he wants to move on with his life. It has been fucking years that he has now been suffering because of this ridiculous woman AH, and he's ready to move on. He even went through, the two trials, and he's done this film, and this is his big comeback, and it is his big comeback, and yet he's still getting these questions. And not only, and so I understand that on the one hand, like, he wants to move on, but on the other hand, I know there's this part of him, because I feel it too, that like wants to kind of turn around and say, but wait a minute, let me help you understand. This is really what happened. And Depp, almost at times, like, trying to sort of, you can see, like, sort of plead with the audience in a way, like, this is what I've been through, this is what it's like, this is how it makes me feel, even at the same time that he's saying, I shouldn't, I have no more need for Hollywood, and these, all of these questions, and I want it to move on, I want it to be about the film and all of that, right? So there's this deep conflict, and it's because he's still in this kind of box. The media will not let him totally have his comeback. Now, I'm not saying that it's up to them. No, the train has definitely moved on from whatever the media thinks should be happening. And let me just say something to you in the media. Do you realize why your critiques of Depp are not catching on, and your dumb, inane questions that you keep asking are not catching on, and all of your insinuations that you're making? Tell me, Mr. Depp, don't you think your followers went a little too far in defending you? What was that? This was something I posted on yesterday. he did an interview, one of the interviews that Depp has been doing in these press junkets, right? This is very common with Khan, and it's why it's such a great place for a comeback. Again, is because you're going to be doing so many interviews and stuff. But he did an interview, and it kind of went under the radar yesterday with the AP. And the reporter said, this was in the article. It said, asked if he had any misgivings about the supporters he attracted. In other words, what they're saying is the reporter asked Johnny Depp in this recent interview, do you have any misgivings about the supporters that you attracted? In other words, we know that you've got these crazy, rabid supporters, these misogynists and these women haters. And don't you think, Mr. Depp, that it's your fault that all these crazies came out of the woodwork to harass the wonderful, the beautiful, the incomparable Amber Heard? Don't you think, Mr. Depp, that you've just got a lot of like crazy fuckers on your side and you need to like get them in line and tell them that their misogyny and their bullying and all of that, it just can't be tolerated anymore? Will you denounce them, sir? Will you denounce them? I mean, it's like the crucible. That's what they're saying. They're saying, sir, you've got these crazy, awful, immoral followers out here who are harassing an innocent woman and besmirching her name in the media. Sir, what do you have to say about that? Asked if he had any misgivings about the supporters he attracted, Depp responded, quote, I did notice that people actually opened their mouths about it. At the time, that was brave. So he completely sidesteps the question that they're asking. He's like, no, I'm not going to play your game. I'm not going to even address your insinuation, or not, it's more than insinuation, right? Your allegation that my supporters were doing something in any way inappropriate. I'm not going to even dignify that with a response. I'm just going to sort of slide over that. And I'm going to point out that how much I appreciate the fans and supporters of mine who had the guts when no one else did to speak out for me. I'm saying is Depp, right? And this dumbass AP reporter who I'm sure didn't even care about any of the positive stuff that Depp was saying in the interview about his, don't you just know he didn't care what Depp had to say about Jean du Barry working on the film or my win or how great it is to be back at Cannes and none of that. No, that reporter was just waiting to jump in there and get his little daggers in, right? So just so subtly he says, you Mr. Depp, don't you think your supporters went too far? Depp says, seems like they were the only ones who had some balls. Seems like they were the only ones who were defending me. Seems like they were some actually really stand-up people, unlike you guys. That's how I translate his answer. And I know that it was just one small remark in one interview, although frankly, I've seen firsthand the way that these media outlets will interview celebrities and interview people and then cut like 2 hours down to a single line. So actually, we don't know. Depp might have had many, many words of praise for his supporters and for the people who have been on his side and have been loudly proclaiming his innocence for a while. He might have had much more to say about them, and they only put that one line in there. But regardless, that one line, that was so powerful. There's two lines, I guess, so powerful when he said, I did notice that there were people who actually opened their mouths at the time to defend me. That took a lot of guts, something like that, right? So this is what I love, and this just shows how Johnny Depp is such a much more high caliber human being than, frankly, these brain dead cretins who keep coming at him with these stupid questions. Because most people, I think most celebrities, image conscious, image obsessed celebrities, when they get a question like that, they're going to try to evade it. Or they might even give in a little. They're going to give that Weasley pussy answer. Well, some people, I have a lot of fans, and some of them take it a little too far. And no, he didn't give that kind of a wormy, squirmy fucking answer. He said, actually, I noticed that they were the only ones standing up for me who had any guts. That's what he basically said. And kudos to him for that. It may have seemed like a small thing, but I just want to say to Johnny Depp, it was not a small thing to your fans and your supporters. And it was not a small thing to me. And I'm sure it was absolutely not a small thing to the people who have been loudly proclaiming your innocence from the beginning. And it takes guts. Look, in this world where we have, where truth has been just completely torn to shreds by a media that is now just completely mired in a sea in a quicksand of bullshit, and in a world where courage, and as Johnny Depp said in his press conference, where being yourself gets you in trouble, and where everyone is feeling this compressive force to just sort of shrink up. Well, I used to have opinions, I used to have views, I used to have outlooks, I used to be free, but then I just sort of got beaten up by the media and by these woke pearl clutching idiots and by the people on the internet with the, mashed potato caked computer screens. And so now I've just kind of compressed into this safe little person. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm not going to say anything that might offend anyone. I'm not going to stand up for anything. I'm just going to sort of ball up and I'm going to be safe and I'm going to save myself. Well, fuck that. And Johnny Depp did not do that. And he could have squirmed out of that question, that Weasley question, but he didn't. And he gave an answer that, frankly, if you look at it and you sort of read between the lines, or you just read what he said, it's a great to the media, and it's a thank you to his supporters. And I thought it was a beautiful acknowledgement. And I'm so glad that one of the things that we got out of this week, aside from Johnny Depp's triumphant return, that one of the things we got out of it this week was this beautiful, not only acknowledgement of his supporters, but this beautiful moment of courage where he was able to, in a way, sort of return the favor and say, you stood up for me when it was tough. I'm going to stand up for you. I don't have to, but I'm going to stand up for you because you stood up for me and because it's the right thing to do. And that's real character. And that's not something you'd see AH doing. That's for sure. And there's one more thing I want to say. And I debated whether to say it because I don't even want to, there's a part of me that doesn't even want to draw attention to something so stupid and so crass and that nobody cares about. But because it is getting some play on the internet, I just want to say, okay, I just want to say, seriously, to everyone in the media and to all of the delusional supporters and to the pearl clutching harpies like Kat Tenbarge and Charlotte Not Proud of Men and all of the rest of you, I just want you to understand, and all the tabloids and Deadline Hollywood and the Hollywood Reporter and Variety Magazine and Me Too and all of you people, okay, who have not been there for Depp or who are still pushing these BS narratives, I want to say one thing to you because it needs to be said. I do not care, and I don't think that most of the world cares, if every tooth in Johnny Depp's fucking head rots out. If he gets on the screen in his next movie and he opens his mouth and I see a completely toothless, gaping hole, I will say that is a beautiful man and let's watch the movie. All right? So fuck you for talking about his teeth. I think your pictures are distorted. Even if they aren't, he's had a fun, interesting life. And that's what I see when I look at those teeth. All right? You know what? When I look at Amber Heard's teeth, I see some real pretty teeth. Some really beautiful, white, finely polished teeth. And you know what? You know what? Those teeth are in one of the ugliest human beings that has ever walked the planet. And I'm talking about the inside. I'm talking about who she is. And I don't care if she can go all around the world and she can cavort in every European city and buy $2 million homes that she was supposed to be, money that she was supposed to be using to fund charities and whatever. And she can flash that bright, beautiful smile with those pearly whites everywhere. And I'm still going to say that is an ugly woman in reality. So Johnny Depp, I think you're great. I think it was an amazing week of triumph. I think that everyone who matters knows that you're back. And I think that the ladies still love you, frankly, and a few of the men too. All right. So everyone, I'm going to continue to be churning out material while Johnny Depp is having his weeks of triumph at Con. I don't know, when is Con over? Is it next week or the week after? But whatever. I'm going to be churning out more Depp material because I want to make sure that we are making the most of this moment and getting the word out for him. And then, of course, I've got a lot of other stuff in the pipeline. So everybody, support my work, and all of my links are below. I appreciate your support. I depend on your support. I've put out a ton of stuff this week, and I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm just going to keep the train going. And in Johnny Depp's case, it's a train that's headed to a good place. All right. And Marilyn Manson, too. I'll be talking about that soon as well. All right. Bye, everybody.